Good morning. I'm Malcolm Kelly. Welcome once again to the National Bible Society lecture series. This morning, the topic will be on a commitment to the philosophy of empowerment. A commitment to the philosophy of empowerment is a commitment to yourself. And that's what we will be talking about today, a commitment to yourself. A commitment to something that you are aware of being. Whether it is rich or poor, black or white. Whatever you are aware of being is what you commit yourself to. And when we commit ourselves to something, it is something that we believe. We believe that we are here to do something to empower ourselves and other people. But what do we really want today? Ask yourself this question. What do you really want today from life? Many people will say, I want from life freedom. Some people want money. Some people want power. And some people want change. But ask yourself, what is it do I really want today? Really, truly want today? Not what you're daydreaming about, but what is it that you truly, deep in your consciousness, desire to have today? And as the answer comes to you, ask yourself the other question, am I committed to that which I want? Am I committed to creating that which I want so badly? So if, for example, you are without something today, it could be a job, it could be money, it could be fame, it could be power, it could be something that you desire to create. Ask yourself, are you committed to that? Or are you committed to the thought of having that, but you are not committed to creating that, which is two different things. And last week I used the topic of talking about stretching, and I used the singer Ray Charles as an example. Ray Charles, as many of you know, is physically blind. So when Ray Charles creates music, he creates music for himself. He is unable to see how people are going to respond to his performance. So he creates out of a need of, I desire to create something that I like. It is something that is coming from me. And I use him as an example because at a very early age, when he lost his sight, he committed himself to music. And he made a decision that he was not going to stand on a street corner with a cup in his hand and a cane and beg the way that people had told him that blind people stood on corners and begged for money and sold pencils as to earn money and to earn an income. He committed himself to doing something that most people told him he could not do. But he wanted to be a singer so badly until he devoted his entire life to singing and creating music. And the greatest creations of this music came when he found out who he really was. You can make a commitment to something and you still are not aware of who you are and how you relate to the commitment. Let me explain it a little further. Ray Charles started off imitating Nat King Cole and Charles Brown. These are two famous African American singers. And he had gotten their voices down so until people thought that he sounded exactly the way Nat King Cole and Charles Brown sounded. And he committed himself to imitating someone other than himself. And he had perfected their sound so until people, as I said, believed that they were hearing Nat King Cole or Charles Brown. And he had some success doing that. But there was something else that burns inside of you when you are committed to something. When you are committed to creating who you are, you ultimately reach the point where you have to break away from what other people have defined yourself to be. And you break away from looking at people outside of yourself and saying, I desire to be like this person. I desire to be a great speaker. I desire to be a great lecturer like someone else. Or I desire to be a great doctor like someone else. Or a politician. Or a bus driver. But we are focusing on gauging our success on someone else. And it was the moment that Ray Charles decided to be himself that he began to create music for himself. And when he discovered that his voice was different from Nat King Cole and Charles Brown, we have the voice that we hear today, which is totally different and has its own uniqueness, that whenever you hear it, no one needs to tell you who it is. You know it from the sound of the voice, and we don't confuse it with any other voice. We know that's Ray Charles. And Ray Charles then was able, as the story goes, to begin to create, and some of the greatest creation that he's ever created came from those moments when he was committed to creating. Not creating for other people, not creating so other people could applaud, but creating for himself, a commitment to himself. And as he said in the book that I read, he was playing around after they had been singing for 4 hours, and they had 15 minutes left, and they needed to fill in 15 minutes on the set, as they call it. And he played all of the songs that he'd ever heard of, all of his songs, and he had nothing else left. So he decided what he would do would just play around. So he said to the band and the Raelettes, just follow me, I'm going to play around here. And he started humming and mumbling. And he started saying what I say. And they picked up what I say. And he just kept going with what I say. And so then the band picked it up, and then the beat formed. And then the audience got into it. And then they had something that they all knew was unique. And the audience came up and said afterwards to him, where can I buy this record? I didn't know that you had this record out. And he had not even published the record. He had been fooling around, and he had created a hit record called What I Say. And when you are committed to creating who you are, you can create while you're not even intending to create if you're committed to it. It comes to you naturally because you are pleasing yourself and you are creating for yourself. So a commitment to empowerment is not a commitment to some abstract term of empowerment that people are talking about today. The world is talking about empowering America. And you have people who are committed, so they say, to creating empowerment for America. And you have people who are committed to empowering the African American community. And they have said we are creating empowerment enterprise zones to help the people who can't help themselves. And I ask you today, who can give you empowerment except yourself? Who can give you the freedom to create a song except yourself? All things that are going to come into the world will come from the consciousness that you had when you entered this world. We cannot commit to something if we don't know what we're committing to. Most of us in this world commit to two things. One is family. We commit to a family. And two, we commit to a job. And those are the two things that we measure our lives by. How well do we succeed in those two environments determines how the world looks at us and determines our success. So we believe that by committing to those two things, we are committing to empowerment. And so at the end of our physical lives, we can say, I committed to my family and I worked on a job for 50 years. And therefore, I am empowered. I have done the things that I have been asked to do by society. And I am saying to you today that that's not a commitment to empowerment. That is a commitment to the laws that people who were not empowered created. And what do I mean by that? Everything that we are embodying in this society outside of ourselves were created by other people who created the laws, the values, and beliefs of this society. So every person who lives in this society and other societies of the world embody the beliefs of other people. And how do those other people look? People say, who is the father of this country? And they say, the founding fathers of America. What did they look like to you? And do you believe today that they intended for you to be able to empower yourself to take charge of your life and take charge of this country? Do you believe it was their intent to teach you how to be empowered? And I say to you today, if you believe that, then the answer becomes, why haven't so many people achieved empowerment? Why did the slaves not achieve empowerment as we know it? Because if the slaves had been empowered, there would not have been slavery. In order for someone to enslave you, it simply means that you give up your rights to manifest your freedom. So today, we cannot say that if someone is creating enterprise zones, that they're creating them from a commitment to empowerment. People are reacting today the same as people have always reacted. I want to be able to commit myself to the values and principles from that which I have been taught. We have all been taught certain things about ourselves today, and that is what we have committed our lives to. It is a painful experience to commit to empowerment, and the pain is because to get to empowerment, you have to give up your beliefs in what made you a victim. And most people find that to be so difficult and painful. How can I give up the belief that all of my life I have lived for this? I have lived to be an acceptable victim. How do I now free myself? There are certain things that I am afraid to let go. So I am afraid, in a sense, to commit to empowerment. How do I stop playing the games in the corporate world? How do I stop chasing and desiring to have all of the things that have helped make me into a victim? How does someone summon up the strength to do that? Oh, you have millions of people who will tell you today that they are free, and that as they walk through this society, this is a free and open society. And people will say today, there is no racism in America. African American people and other people have all of the opportunities that they need. It's just something inherently wrong with them as to why they don't have anything in this society. There is something that is inherently wrong with us when we believe that other people have our best interests at heart. No one in this world can tell you who you are. And that includes your parents, that includes professors, that includes teachers, that includes every single living person in this world. You know who you are. And you know why you're here. And you know that the unhappiness in your life today is caused simply because you are not doing what you know that you should be doing. And you can have 1,000 excuses for it. You could say that I am not doing this because, and here's the reason. I don't have any money, I don't have a job, I don't have any education, I'm black, I'm poor, I'm living in a racist society, I'm living in a society that does not respect my talents. Any number of excuses we can bring to the table. But now cut away the excuses and ask yourself that fundamental question again. What is it that I want in this world? What is it that I desire to see for myself in this world? And then that other question, what am I doing to get it? Am I committed to that? Or am I sidetracked with the multitude of reasons? The multitude of reasons is that I will be over on this side looking at all of the problems and judging the world. So we judge the world and say that the world is messed up. The whole world is messed up. And I stand as a victim in this world, and I am complete. But I'm not messed up. It's all of these other people who are messed up, who have enslaved me. I am unhappy because they made me unhappy. And I'm saying to you today, let's accept the fact that they made you unhappy. Then why don't you get away from them? If all of these people have made you unhappy, then why don't you leave? Why do you continue to accept the psychological and physical abuse of being a victim when you can make a commitment to empowerment and to yourself? But in order to make that commitment, you have to leave all of the beliefs that you have been taught. Not some of them, but all of them. And then you fall into what I call the gap. And the gap is a place between the rational and the intuitive. And in that gap, you're in a transitional stage where you are moving to the intuitive. And in the Bi Society, intuition is that part of you that knows the truth about the world and how things are created. And as you fall into this gap, of knowledge and living. You cannot look back and say, I am now in the gap and I'm neither empowered or disempowered. I'm sitting here and I desire to go over into the intuitive, but I'm still afraid. And I look at all of the other people as I'm in the gap and all of the material and psychological security that they seem to possess. And you say, oh, I long to have those things that I have given up in my consciousness. And I want to go over and re-embody those again. I want to give life to those dead beliefs. Because I was crazy to believe that I could be free. I was crazy to believe that there is something that exists beyond science and logic. I was crazy to believe that there was something else possible in this world other than what I see. I was crazy to believe that these people didn't have my best interest at heart, albeit I'm unable to manifest my true creativity. But it's something that keeps me coming back to my old self. Why do people come back to their old self? Because whenever you've been in an unhappy relationship, you think about it. You don't transition out of that relationship immediately. There are times when you want to go back and think about good times that you had in the relationship, and you give great power to that. And you believe that those good times were really good. But they were not. But you believe it. And so you have to keep going back. And you have to keep getting abused and being unhappy for you to make a complete transition. So it is with empowerment. You don't say one day, I am empowered. And you get up and testify to all of the people and say, I am empowered. I am no longer this person. No, that's not empowerment. And that's not a commitment to empowerment. A commitment to empowerment is for you to leave those things which have caused you to be unhappy. Anything that has caused you to be unhappy is a shackle on your consciousness. And we did the visualization before we started the lecture, and you could see yourself and feel yourself as empowered consciousness. Now ask yourself, with that much knowledge, what would you do after you have lived your life on this planet? Think about that today. Think about if your life ended today. What could you say to someone that you have done to bring about that which you desire to have in this world? I don't care whether it's money. I don't care whether it's power. What can you say that you have done today to bring about that which you are committed to? Whether it's empowerment or whether it's foolishness. Whether it's being the best victim in this country. Some people cannot even commit to being a victim. Because to commit to being a victim is to constantly embody victim beliefs and achieve happiness. But most victims are unhappy. So they're not even happy being victims. And so we find ourselves unable to commit to anything. And so if we are not committed to anything, then ask yourself if all you can say is, I worked for General Motors for 35 years. I worked for 35 years on one job. And I have lived my life upright. And I'm saying to you today, if you believe that that will give you the satisfaction that you desire to have in the world, then you are truly complete. You're complete in your thoughts. But I ask yourself, is that what you really came into the world to do? See, a lot of people are working for companies that were created after they came into the world.
That's the end of side 1. Please fast forward and continue on side 2.